What's up, everybody? It is Saturday, February 3rd, and we are here in the Allegheny Mountains of western Pennsylvania. And it is an absolutely gorgeous, crisp 39 degrees out. And we are going to go out on a little adventure here today to look for some relics and also explore an 1850s historic site that was an area of great activity between 1850s and 1870s, and then a second period of activity around the turn of the century related to the railroad and crossing of the Great Alleghenies. So hang in there and we'll see what we can find. All right, just a little background before I get started here. If you look behind me here, piece of property that I'm on is heavily posted. And for those of you out there in the relic world, don't ever go relic hunting without permission on posted land. Fortunately for me, I did some research, and turns out the owner of this property is actually somebody I went to high school with years ago. So I do have permission to be on the site and to explore the site. So if you're watching this video and you know where I'm at, don't come here, all right, unless you have permission. Respect the landowner. And that keeps the rest of the hobby intact for the rest of us. Because when you start invading people's privacy and crossing land boundaries without permission, you really ruin the hobby for the rest of us. So I really encourage you to do your research, find out who owns the land, ask for permission, and then make sure you leave it the way it was. In other words, if you dig a hole, fill it back in. So a lot of people would look at this and say, oh, that's strange, a pond in the middle of the woods. Well, this really isn't a pond. This is actually a man-made reservoir. This reservoir goes way back to the 1850s. It was used to run hydraulic drills that are going to be used to construct the largest tunnel in the eastern United States ever built. This tunnel will end up being 4,777 feet with a 200 to 300 foot overburden, all hand dug, and started in 1857, completed in 1879. So they would have got the water here. They would have used this water, generated steam with it to run machinery, and also run hydraulic drills, from what I understand. So it might be a little hard to see, but there's a giant pit right there. And I don't want to get too close to the edge because I just don't know how stable the ground is around this opening. But this would have been vent number 2. And a little later in the video, I'm going to drive over to the other side and show you vent number 1, which is still there. This one has been collapsed and caved in, but that's a 200-foot hole. So I'm not going to get much closer. Now, the piece of land that you see on the other side of this hole belongs to a different landowner. And I did have permission on that property at one time, but respectfully, the landowner asked me not to come back. They let me have a weekend to search the property and look for relics. And I did hit a payday. There was a lot of turn of the century and older glass. But as you can see, they have a feeder there and they have a tree stand on the property, and I don't want to disturb that. So I'm gonna head back across to the property that I do have permission on, and hopefully I'll be as lucky as I was when I was on this other piece of property. While I'm out here today, I'm going to be looking for relics, because when this tunnel was built, the tunnel diggers had their encampment, according to all the records and according to the research I've done, on top of the tunnel. So on top of this tunnel is a flat bench, and that is where the encampment would have been for the workers. And they probably, more than likely, would have used this stream to get drinking water. And of course, we're going to be looking for some relics left behind by the workers, and hopefully we turn something up. I'll get back to you. All right, so here's a bottle. I already know what it's going to be. I can tell by the shape of it. This is a Meyersdale Brewing bottle. Fairly common. This would have been of a later period, probably 1901 to 1915. Not anything I can do much with. If this would have been a little lower script, I could make a drinking glass or a shot glass out of this. I can't tell you how many thousands of bottles I've left in the woods that I wish I had back, because now people are using a tile saw and they're cutting these and having a vintage shot glass, and they're going for like 15-20 bucks a piece on eBay, depending on the the maker. Your older ones that have a circle slug or something like that, or your bottom script Coca-Colas are going for big money. So I do pick them up and keep them now if they're suitable for making a shot glass, but this one is not. So as you can see here, that's how people in Western PA mark their property lines with beer cans. So I'm on the margin of the property line that I have permission to be on, but I want to show you this hunting cabin, and I want to point out this foundation stone. If you look at that foundation stone, likely that was one of the original encampment structures, and then someone built a hunting camp on top of the foundation, because that is definitely some old foundation. This is a great example of what we're looking for. So most people would walk through woods and they would see something like this and they wouldn't think twice, but this is actually an old foundation. If you take a look, we have stacked stone, and you can see by the age of that tree that this structure is very old. And you can see there's some more stacked stone along there. There's some stacked stone. So this was the foundation. There's a pile of rocks right there. I'm standing on top of one foundation wall, and there's some more stones over here. But somewhere in this site there would be a privy. This actually looks like there was a middle divider as well. If you look at that, I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but right about there where that stick is a middle divider. So this would have been a two-sided shack or shanty, would have housed the tunnel diggers. And down there is the creek where I found that bottle. So we're gonna keep looking, see what else we can find. Okay, so from some of the research I've done, they did talk about building a third ventilation shaft. And I don't know if it was ever completed, but I'm pretty sure I'm up here on a ridge, well, actually a slag pile. But this is definitely a test pit or the third ventilation shaft. And you can tell it's kind of caved in, but definitely cooler down in that pit because the snow's still there. But this gives you an idea. And then this structure that goes out along here that I took a picture of previously is the excavation pilings and talus pile, where they would have dumped the rock and material that they dug out. But once again, these are 200-foot ventilation shafts. So I'm not going to go down in it. And as I said before, a little bit later, I'm going to show you one that's still standing when I get across the highway and photograph it from the western portal. All right, I'm about 25 yards from that foundation I just showed you, and take a look. Some early stoneware. So the last time I was allowed on this property, I referred to this as like an Easter egg hunt, because you literally just walk through the woods and there's stuff laying everywhere. But look here, unbroken, undisturbed. There it is. Now, once again, this isn't from the old tunnel. This is likely from the 1911 tunnel. I'm more interested in the 1850s, 1870s tunnel, but it's a keeper. All right, this looks like a mule path, and this looks like a road. So back in the day, no heavy machinery, they would have used mules to probably excavate the rock out and haul it in either sleds, in a mud slurry, or some type of cart. But this is definitely a mule path, and I feel like that's the road for the handlers up there. This is what we came for. Yeah, I said this was going to be a video about relic hunting. It is, but it's also a video about history too. And I want you to look out through the woods here, and I want you to look down off this. Once again, I'm not going to get too close, but this is what is known as the Great Calebra Cut. This cut was dug out by hand in the 1850s. You can see there's a water diversion, a little bit of cement works right there. But this is the cut where the railroad would have crossed the Alleghenies in the 1870s. Took them about 20 years to dig the 4,777 foot tunnel, which was an engineering marvel for its day, and the longest tunnel in the eastern United States. Maybe still today, but it's not in operation, obviously. But just to think of the work involved to even make this cut through the mountain, let alone the tunnel that I'm going to try to drop down in there and show you the tunnel. But anyhow, a massive undertaking nonetheless, and worth documenting. You know, part of our job as relic hunters is to capture history and make sure that when nature takes all of this over, that there's some documentation of it. Somebody appreciates the work of the people that built this country. But this was the first passage across the Alleghenies. Prior to this, the C&O Canal ended in Cumberland, and there was really no way to get goods to Pittsburgh and areas west in the Ohio River Valley other than by wagon. So this was the first railroad crossing the Allegheny summit and the Continental Divide. Come back to you in a minute. All right, after about a mile walk, I finally found an access point where I could get down in this cut. And I'm gonna walk up to it, and we're gonna take a look at that tunnel up there. Yeah, the tunnel would have had a stone face. You know, there's pictures of the portal that I'll try to include in this video, but there was a stone facade on the front of it, and you can see a little bit of it right there. The stone facade was removed in the early 1920s to gather the foundation, the cut foundation stone, to build Stone's Tavern. So anyhow, the guy that gave me permission is related to the Stones, and I think he's a great nephew or something like that. But maybe I'll do some door knocking later and see if I can get in and show you the cornerstone or the keystone that is still in the basement of the tavern with the date stamped on it. So you can see the cut stone that lines the tunnel. And I'm gonna try to get down in a little bit. Well, video's gonna pick this up, but look at that beautiful cut stone. Of course, the tunnel's inundated with about, I don't know, 5-6 feet of water. But 1850s, 1870s cribbing. And the wood cribbing goes on for 4,777 feet. I'm guessing a lot of that was virgin timber. You look at the size of those cribs. They're at least 18 by 18, maybe 20 by 20. The only way you could get back in there and really explore it is with a kayak. Would not recommend it. But anyhow, longest tunnel in the eastern United States. The new tunnel is about a quarter mile to my, I guess, northeast. And when I say new, it was built in 1911, finished in 1913, steam-powered machinery. This was hand done with explosives, picks, and then this stone was laid in here by masons, and the cribbing and everything else. All right, one last parting shot. I think the photos will be better in the video, but a piece of history that's soon to be lost, I'm sure. All right, I told you about the different vents for that old tunnel. Here's the only vent that is still standing. Now, back when I worked for the electric cooperative around here, we had a bucket truck one day. And I went up on the bucket truck and stuck my head over and looked down in that thing. And the air that was rushing out of there took off my hard hat. So 200 feet down below here somewhere is a hard hat. Made a trip down to the western portal and the former town of Sanpatch, but the piece of ground is posted, and I did not want to trespass, so I did a little Google search, and I'm going to give some photo credits here at the end of the video. But the western portal is pretty much collapsed as well, but you can enter, and there are some pictures out there on the internet that show you the western portal. So I'm going to slip those in here, and hope you guys enjoy the video and look for our next episode.